Hi, my name is Jemmya. Some of you may have heard of me before. I dated Atis. I've been very open on my Instagram, supporting Nick and Alice. A lot of people have been asking me to make a TikTok to get more reach. This is my first time ever filming a TikTok. I'm very nervous. I have an old phone here with some notes. Just to help me get through this. I want to say on the record that a lot of the stuff in me and Atis' relationship was consensual. We did have a very sexual relationship. The majority of what we did and what we talked about was sex. I noticed very early on that he was this way. I was okay with it. I was very attracted to him, and I kind of went along with his fantasies. I had no problem with it. He began to push my boundaries and expecting sex when I was not okay with it. There was a time early on I had broken the NDA because I was telling a concerned friend about how I was able to travel so much and why I was hanging out with these people that I wasn't allowed to talk about. She thought that I was being sex trafficked, so I wanted to clear that up with her. And after I told her, I immediately told Atis what happened, and he told me that I had completely broken his trust, and so we kind of mutually agreed that maybe we should go our separate ways. I still very much cared for him, and around this point I was starting to fall in love with him, and we kind of came to this arrangement where we would kind of see each other more casually. I felt a lot of guilt during this time. He told me he had a lot of trauma and trust issues with his past relationship, so part of me felt the need to really make it up to him, and so I wanted to make it up to him the only way I knew how. I can't blame him entirely for this because I did kind of bring this upon myself, but he took it too far, to the point where it was extremely damaging to my mental health. He would text me late at night, even when I had work the next day, and tell me to come over. And I always felt like I had to make it up to him. I would cry the entire way in the Uber there. I would cry the entire time I was with him, and then I'd cry on the way home. He would call me all sorts of degrading things over text and stuff that I was just not comfortable with, but I let him, just to make him happy. None of my texts back were particularly flirty, and honestly none of it screamed that I was into it. I was very much just kind of letting it happen. I am autistic and I have sensory issues, and a big comfort for me is to hold my back, and I would sit in the shower with boiling hot water and just have it run down my back and try and soothe myself. And then one time it got to the point where I was clawing at my back with my nails to the point where I was bleeding, and I just wanted to see me that day, and I tried to hide the cuts from him, but he ended up seeing them, and immediately he got defensive and he started blaming me. He never even asked me if I was okay, and the worst part is he still made me stay to have sex with him. Then he called me the Uber home. This wasn't the only time. Every single time we would go through a breakup of some sorts. Every few days or weeks later, He would message me saying that he missed me, specifically missed fucking me. Everything he missed about me was physical, and it got to the point where I started to become disgusted by him. He would refuse to acknowledge my boundaries and continue to tell me to come over. I would tell him how upset he was making me and how heartbroken I was, but he never cared. I talked about some other stories in episode 3 of Michaela's podcast that I had about Atis. This is a story that I completely forgot about until recently, and it's not good. I did talk about it a little bit on my Instagram when I did an AMA, and so I condensed it as quickly as I could. And so basically, I take this medication that I have to take every day, and every time I buy this medication I get warned that I should never stop taking it cold turkey. And so I ran out of this medication on the trip, and I thought it would be okay, but it wasn't. I ended up in excruciating pain. I was doubled over on the floor, sobbing, and just, honestly, it's one of the worst pains of my life. And for the most part, I was left alone. Everyone else would go out, enjoy their days, and I mean, I don't really have a problem with that. I'm not expecting everyone to stay home just because I'm in pain, but I would have expected a little bit more empathy from Atis, especially the times where he was sick. I would stay back to take care of him. So one night I was in a lot of pain, and I was shaking, and I was crying, and he had carried me into one of the rooms and lied down next to me. And I was still shaking and crying because my head was throbbing, every part of my body ached, and Atis said, "If you care about me, you will leave the room." And obviously I did care about him. I cared about him way too much. And I wanted to prove it to him, I guess. And so I slowly, shakily tried to sit myself up and stand up. And as soon as I stood up, just my vision went white, my ears were ringing, head was throbbing, my legs were weak. Mom spaghetti. And I fell to the floor and I hit my head, and it really hurt because it was wooden floors, and I had a bit of a bruise on my face afterwards. And I still tried to drag my body towards the door because I wanted to prove to him that I did care about him. And he was still going on about me not caring about him because I wasn't trying hard enough to leave. And so I really pushed myself, but I just couldn't. And I just ended up lying down on the cold wooden floors, crying and shaking in pain. And after a while, I just finally got sick of me, I guess, and he got up and left. And I had no strength and no energy, and I lied on that cold floor all night. No one came to check on me. I laid there the whole night, and then the next morning I mustered up some energy to try and stand up and grab my phone and call a friend to get me out of there. And Atis saw me, and I don't really remember what we were talking about, but I told him that I didn't sleep at all. And his immediate reaction was, why? I slept fine. And he knew that he left me on the floor, alone in pain. And he just did not care. And so after this incident, I blamed myself so much. Every single thing that happened, I always blamed myself. And so after I got back to Australia, he would pester me and beg me to come over, telling me that I had a duty to fulfill and that it was my job to please him. And so after days and days of him begging, I finally broke and I said, fine, I'll come over if that'll make you shut up. And he told me, he said, I hope you'll enjoy it. And I said, I won't. And he said, then that's rape. He knew exactly what he did to me. When I got to his place, I couldn't even look him in the eyes. I just walked straight into his room and I lied down on his bed. And I cried the entire time. And I know he knows this because he watched me. When he finished, I tried to push him off of me, but he wouldn't let me go. And I ended up having to physically push him off of me, and I yelled at him and I said, get off of me. And I ran and I hid in his bathroom, and I felt so sick because this man says that he loves me and he just violated me like that so easily. And I hid in his bathroom until the Uber arrived, and on my way out I yelled at him and I said, I hate you. I hope you're happy. And the walls in that house were very thin. The house was very rickety. Anna's door, Anna's bedroom was right across the hall. She would have heard me yell. She would have heard me run out and run down the stairs crying. And then I find out a few days after this happened, she's posted a TikTok of her lying in Atis's bed, the bed that her brother raped me in, boasting about how much of a good guy he is.
Laying on his bed when he showered because I was scared. Laying on his bed when he showered. Pulled up in my mom's car. See, just sitting with the bird and watch the sunset. And I pulled up myself and I just see this. I see Atis driving up the stairs.
I also wanted to say I'm not as much of a pushover as I look like. I called out Atis's behavior every single time. Every time it was manipulative, toxic, or even just disrespectful, I told him that that was never okay and that he could never treat me like that. I believed him when he said he would change. And I truly believed that he had some sort of deep-seated anger and hatred towards me because I refused to enable his behavior. And I did it all from a place of love because his own mother, Bilden, had confided in me about how his behavior affects her and affects Anna, and how they feel like they can't do anything about it. I truly wanted him to be a good person. At that point, not even for me, but for the people that he says that he cares about. He played off the way he treated me as if I was in the wrong for ever daring to ask too much of him. If I did something bad, if I was the one to hurt him, I took accountability for it, and I took steps to make sure that that same thing would never happen again, because I truly never wanted to hurt him. The only time he would ever say he was wrong is when we were both in the wrong. Even if he was the one that started the argument or incident or whatever, this is the only time he took accountability by saying I was also wrong somehow, just so he could deflect some of the blame onto me. I fulfilled every sexual fantasy that this man had. The only reason he loved me is because I could fulfill that. And I loved him, and I felt it was my duty to fulfill his fantasies. And when things were good, I happily played along. But he could never respect my boundaries. And he never respected me. And it took me so long to realize that. I blamed myself for so long because I thought I was Atis's only victim. I thought that because I played along with his fantasies, that I pushed him into doing this to me, because I never said no before, that when I did want to say no, I didn't really have a choice. The day I found out about what he did to Michaela and Alice, I was devastated. Everything I knew about this man was a lie. He is sick. And I have crashed out many times in the group chat and to Mick and to my friends about the shit that he put me through and the stuff that I put up with and that I blamed myself for because I truly thought that it was my fault. I tried really hard to fix our relationship. I really wanted it to work because I truly believed that I loved him. And he would say all of these nice things about me, telling me that I was so special and that I was made just for him and that I was perfect. But then here I am, sitting right in front of him, and he can't even look me in the eyes. Not even acknowledging my existence. This man does not care about anything or anyone apart from himself.